Hello everyone, welcome to Michigan Man MTG, and today we're looking at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cards that were previewed as part of the Lorwyn Eclipsed Pre-release kits, and we've done videos so far on the white, the blue, and the black cards, and we're going to dive into the red right here. Alright, so first we've got Broadcast Takeover for 2 and 3 red mana. You get a sorcery and gain control of all artifacts your opponent controls until end of turn. Untap them, they gain haste until end of turn. I think this is a card that probably doesn't see any standard play, maybe some commander play. And in limited, I think it's going to be okay, but not all that great. And the reality here is your opponent has to have a lot of artifacts to make this matter. I mean, maybe it's a sideboard card if artifact decks become prevalent in standard, but outside of that, I don't see it seeing any play. Next, we've got Casey Jones, Vigilante for 1 and 2 red mana. You legendary creature that's a human berserker and a 4/3. And when Casey Jones enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. At the beginning of your next upkeep, discard 3 cards at random. So very powerful enter the battlefield trigger there with draw 3 on Casey. The downside of it is that you're going to have to discard 3 cards at random at the beginning of your next upkeep. So unless you're in a situation where you've got a bunch of mana on the field, I'm not sure if this is going to be playable, but if you are playing a deck where you want to discard things to get things into your graveyard, then I think Casey Jones might be a fit for those style of decks. Next, we've got Cool But Rude, which is an enchantment. That's a class in red for 1 and a red mana. And whenever you attack, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So really nice ability here on Cool But Rude. One of the problems that red decks have a lot of the time is they kind of don't have a way to get additional card draw. So in the mid to late game when you're drawing lands, you want to get rid of them. Cool But Rude could be a very important card for you to allow you to get additional card draw. And you can level it up to level 2 for 1 and a red mana. And when you discard a card, this class deals 2 damage to each opponent, which I think actually is a very, very powerful ability and could make this very standard playable. Because obviously when you attack, you can discard, but then whenever you discard, you're doing 2 damage to your opponent. And right now, coming out of the regional championship in Portland, we've got a Rakdos deck that's trying to get Moonshadow to work that I think is pretty powerful, and this could be the kind of card that helps push Moonshadow's deck and Rakdos over the top, because once you get it to level 2, whenever you're discarding stuff to, play when you're playing other cards, then I think this just becomes a way to kind of finish off your opponent. And if it does 4 to 6 damage, I think it's done its job in standard. And then on level 3, and again for 1 and a red mana, whenever this class becomes level 3, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, shuffle, then discard a card at random. So you're probably not going to be using that ability, but I think the first 2 here are valuable enough to see standard play. And where this card may actually be at its most valuable is in the Is It Lessons deck, because this is going to be an automatic way of every time, if you can get it to level 2, every time you discard a card, you're then going to do 2 damage to your opponent. So this is just another way of, applying pressure to your opponent in those games. Next, we've got Improvise Arsenal for 1 and a red mana. You get an equipment. An equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control, and its equip cost is a red mana. And then for 4 and a red mana, you can create a token that's a copy of this equipment. So if we have truly an Artifacts Matter deck, I think this would go into that deck. Because of the upside of getting +1 for each artifact you control. We do have some good artifact creatures already in standard, and we also have things like weapons manufacturing that creates munitions tokens that are artifacts every time you cast an artifact. So I think there's an outside chance that this does see some play in standard. Next, we've got Raphael Ninja Destroyer for 2 and 2 red mana. You get a legendary creature that's a mutant ninja turtle and is a 4/4. And Raphael must be blocked if able. And he's got Enrage. Whenever Raphael is dealt with damage, add that much red mana to your mana pool. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. So I think there's a possibility that this could be decent in standard. And the fact that it requires your opponent to block your creature could create unfavorable blocking situations from your opponent's perspective. So because of that, I think it's got an outside chance of seeing some standard play. Next, we've got Raphael the Night Watcher for 2 and 2 red mana, another legendary creature that's a mutant ninja turtle and is a 2/3. And its sneak cost is 1 and 2 red mana, and you may cast the spell for 1 and 2 red mana if you also return an unblocked attacker you control to hand during the declare blocker step. He enters tapped and attacking. Attacking creatures you control have double strike. So this is a card that I definitely see as having standard playability, particularly in any deck where you're going to have flying creatures, because they're not likely to be blocked like regular creatures are. And if you can sneak Raphael into play as one of those creatures, then very quickly your opponent is going to be in a very unfavorable situation. Obviously, Raphael is going to do 4 damage to things, but then also any blockers on the turn you sneak in. There's going to be a really bad combat math situation happening where, they thought the creature would survive, but now because of the double strike, that creature's not going to survive. And because of that, I think Raphael is a sneaky good card for standard. Next, we've got Ravenous Robots for 1 and a red mana. You get an artifact creature that's a robot and is a 2/1. And when you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 robot artifact creature token that's colorless. So this is another card that I think goes into the weapons manufacturing deck as another way to kind of grow your board. And because of that, I think it's definitely going to be standard playable. And for a red mana, you can tap it in creature tokens you control, gain haste until the end of turn. So that could be actually a really powerful ability for 1 mana. Hey, you cast a couple of spells over the course of the turn and on the first main phase, and now you're going to go ahead and be able to attack with all those creatures. And because of that, I think Ravenous Robot has a place in the weapons manufacturing deck. Next, we've got Slash Reptile Rampager for 3 and 2 red mana. You get a legendary creature that's a mutant berserker turtle and a 7/5 with Alliance. Whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield, Slash deals 2 damage to each opponent. So really powerful enter the battlefield trigger there of any time a creature enters the battlefield. It deals 2 damage. Whenever Slash attacks, create a 2/2 red mutant creature token. So it helps itself, in essence, with the Alliance ability there. When it attacks, you're going to do 2 damage to each opponent. So again, the question is, does a 5 mana card work in standard? And the question right now is, I don't know. In limited, this is going to be a very powerful card. And in Commander, it'll be a very powerful card. And we'll just have to see how it works in standard. All right, and those are the red cards from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle previews that we saw from the Lorwyn Eclipsed pre-release kits. Next up, green.